Hello, my name is Tyler Roach. I'm from Troop 2-1, and this is my Eagle Project. I have gotten a group of speakers together to talk to Lake Travis.
My name is Lieutenant McAnally with Lake Travis Fire Rescue, and we were tasked with a project this morning to come and give you all a little information about wildfires and how they affect the urban interface, which is what we all live in here. This is not our normal forte of stuff to do. We have guys that do it, but they were already booked for another event, so they tasked us to do it. And we will do our best to answer any questions and give you as much information as we can. We did bring some literature that they dropped off for us that we can go over and touch through it and touch base on things. And a lot of stuff is what the landscape lady here had already told you all about, with the different plants and how to plant and where to plant, and shrubs and how they can grow up against your house, or things that we're going to touch base on. And my guys back here, we have Engineer Etheridge standing right here, and then my probationary firefighter Powers over there, and they're putting together these packets for y'all and of the information. One thing that we stress a lot on the fire protection is this. There's a website on the back side of this booklet here. It's called firewise.org, and you can find out almost every bit of information you'll want to know how to protect your home in case of a wildfire. To help give it the most survivability possible that would be able to do, and planting things that are going to be to help your landscape, keeping plants short, and not plants that are going to grow real tall. Like she had made a quote towards putting a tree right outside your dining room window that's going to grow 10 feet. Well, that the canopy of that can catch on fire, and then embers can get into the soffits of your house and then get in the attic and then start to fire and just work its way back down. But like I said, so please forgive me for being a little sketchy on giving this presentation, but I will do my best and we'll go through everything. Once y'all get your packets, we can kind of thumb through it and I can answer any questions that you might have. One of the most important things they touch base on in the Firewise is your parameters of zoning. So you have different zoning starting from your house. You got your first zone, which is a 30-foot barrier. From the center of your house out, you want to have about a 30-foot barrier of clearance space where we're not touching your house. You don't have tall trees that are going to throw sparks and embers if fire was to come through. You plant smartly where you have shrubs that are shorter, and your trees are manicured, and dead limbs are cut out of it, and they're thinned out, and things of that nature is what the books are going to go over a lot on. And then you have your next zone, which is going to be from like 30 to 100 feet or so, and it just goes on to tell you a little bit more about how you should be interested in your neighbor's yard even, and what they do to prune their yard and their trees, and what kind of shrubs they keep around, especially if it goes up to a fence that you're joined with them. If you have a privacy fence, if you're joining with your neighbor and they have a shrub that grows right next to it that might be up against the green belt. If the green belt was to catch on fire, it catches that shrub, then ignites the fence, which is connected to yours, which is then connected to your house. That can then leap into your soffits also and get your house. Fortunately, most of the houses here are going to be a brick or a stucco facade outside, which is, they'll also indicate in here that that's one of your best things, the masonry products for the exterior exposure. Protection will give you your best defense against wildfires. Having closed-in soffits, so that meaning where your roof comes down and the bottom part of your house meets, that's going to be your soffit area. Normally you have to have vents in there, or holes to help vent the attic out. That's a good place for embers to come into the house, because it'll pull a draft. The way fire pushes through, it has all the heat in it, has a lot of force, and it can pull the embers into the attic, and then of course start the attic on fire. One thing that I don't know if they mentioned in this booklet, but I know we had a class that says if you can get like screen material, I think it's the 6 or 8 mil, or I don't remember how they designate it, but the smaller grid screen mesh If you can put that over your soffits on the outside or on the inside, and that'll cover up those holes, and embers will have a harder time to get through the mesh. If you have dormers, you can do that on the dormers also. That'll help keep the embers from coming inside the attic. If you can put a mesh-like device on those, will help out a lot. And then there's another booklet here that is pretty useful that I kind of thumbed through a little bit today, and it breaks down the zones I was telling you all about, and then also it tells you a lot of the plants that are easy to plant and that we recommend to use that are not as susceptible to spreading fire as fast and so forth, and it tells you the construction materials that we prefer to use. Stay away from wood shank or in wood roof material, metal and composite shingles, and then your clay tiles for your roof are all good items to use for your roof. Those, and then I think one of the things on the fire safety around the house is one thing that was wanting to be brought up. Good fire safety, it's in the booklets, is keeping your lawn manicured, which will also, I believe, will help control on the water usage and things of that nature. If you keep your yard manicured, low cut, that will help keep the spread of fire down so it doesn't come up close to the house. Ways to prevent forest fires or wildfires. A lot of people don't realize that even glass bottles thrown out can cause fires to start with the light coming through and reflecting, and starting the grass on fire can start fires. Of course, the biggest thing we see is cigarette butts being thrown out. Those things can smolder for hours after being thrown out. Just because you see it go bouncing across the road and might throw a couple sparks, it's still hot. And a good gust of wind comes through, can light that filter material up. The filter material will burn over time, depending on how much air it gets, and if it doesn't get smothered out of any sort, it can burn and start a fire eventually also. It doesn't happen all the time, but it can. A lot of people they take it for granted, and out goes the cigarette butt, and a good gust of wind, which we've all seen. The wind's blowing right now, probably blowing about 5 to 6 miles an hour right now out there. So that's enough wind to kick up a wildfire and get it going. Minimizing risk around your home. The minimizing the risk part would be to keep your shrubs cut down low, keep them away from the house. If you have a fence that comes right up to your house, make sure it has an easier way to be pushed down, so that way you can take that fuel source away from your house. That would minimize the risk. Trash cans, make sure they're either in the garage or away from the house, because things can land inside of those, start the material that might be inside of them on fire. Then you got a fuel source right there. Stacks of wood, firewood for your fireplace. You want to keep those away from the house. Propane tanks, gasoline, storage sheds. Those kind of things will help reduce your risk of keeping wildfire from burning the house down. You touch base on clearing brush and trees. We kind of touched base on that already. You want to keep all the dead material out of the trees and keep them pruned nice, and it'll also help make them healthier trees and grow better, and they'll sustain life a lot better. What to do in evacuation. The orange sheet here will kind of give you a little bit of information about what to do in case of evacuation. They say get ready, set, go is the saying they're using, and basically you want to make sure you have a defensible space around your property. Defensible space would be an area that you can safely be in if a fire was to come. So let's say that 30-foot space I'm telling you all about. If you keep it cut down and nice and neat, well, the fires, most time fires around here are not going to jump that far. You would be safe in that place if you got trapped. So let's say the fire's all around your neighborhood, you can't get out. That's kind of your defensible space, is if you have your area that's safe. You can get out there through water hose, start watering things down, make it moist, and you have a defensible space if if all else fails, you can't get out. Create a family disaster plan. What they're wanting you to kind of do on that is have a plan so if something was to happen and your family wasn't at the house with you, y'all were separated, someone was at a party on the other side of town or at the grocery store shopping and something came up, have a plan on where you would meet. You know, if you would meet at a family house across the town or you would meet at the mall or something, you know, have an idea of what you would do in a crisis situation, which if you live in Steiner Ranch, we've all had that situation come up where you come home and you can't even get in your neighborhood because the law enforcement has 620 shut down. So it happens, and a lot of people weren't prepared and weren't ready for it because they had no idea. And that's why we're trying to get a lot of this information out to educate everybody to know to have these kind of things ready. It's just like a fire drill at school. We've all done them our whole life and all through grade school. Fire drills are good things to do. Same thing with your house. Have an escape plan, have a place to meet. If you have to, you know, have a big open field can be your place to meet. And just research it or, you know, study it with your family, go over it just like a fire drill once every 6 months or so. Or when we change the smoke detector batteries, you know, every time the clock changes, you can go over the fire drill or evacuation plan or something. That's what we recommend. A lot of times they're trying to get away from that because they say change your batteries twice a year. We just say, you know, every time you change the clocks, forward or backwards, go ahead and change your batteries, go over your evacuation plan, go over your fire drill with kiddos, make sure they understand what's going on, know where to meet, phone numbers to call, things of that nature. Identify evacuation routes. With Steiner, we only have really 1 to 2 ways out. A lot of people, when they were evacuated out of Steiner, they said, oh, well, there's only one way out, up Quinlan Park or out Steiner Ranch. And they're like, well, what about this way? And they're like, what way? They didn't know that, you know, once you got to the elementary school there where Steiner and Quinlan meet, that you could go either way to make it to 620. They only knew the one way in, one way out. And so we had to educate a lot of people on that. And but know your area, know your streets, know which ones go in and out, and if there's back roads, dirt roads, cut roads, or whatever, you know, utilize those. Google Maps shows a lot of roads that aren't on the maps. If you can get in there and look at those, you know, really study out your surroundings of where you live and what are ways to get out and get away and get to another alternate way to get to a major thoroughfare, 620, 2222, 71. You know how to take an alternate route. Have multiple backups whenever you live in a community that does only have 1 or 2 ways in or out. Emergency kit. They're saying to assemble emergency kit. They're talking like if it's wintertime, of course, you want a blanket, some food or some sort. Canned foods that have long shelf life. You can put in a kit. You might even want to when you put your kit together, whenever you go over your disaster plan, go through the kit also and say, okay, what's out of date? Let's go ahead and replace that. Get it, stocked back up at that time would be a good time to check for dates on whatever. But have your flashlights and extra batteries and food rations, bottled water. I know you don't like bottled water, but
it's okay for safety.
They were giving me a hard time because I asked for bottled water at the station because it's easy to just grab a bottle of water, walk out the store, and still have a bottle of water to sip on and keep us hydrated. And when you said that, they were giving me a hard time. Trying to stay hydrated. So those are some of the things you can put in. I believe on the Firewise, I believe on the Firewise website and on this Texas Firestorm, I believe they give you a description of what would be good things to put in this emergency kit. Like I said, I'm sorry that I don't know everything about what needs to be said because we don't normally put on the classes for these. So I don't know 100%. They don't tell us everything. They just kind of say here. And since I am a little unsure of some of this stuff, I will go back today and I'm going to go over it and educate myself and make sure that I do know. So when I'm out in the public, I will be able to have a better idea of what to do and answer questions a lot better. But if from other emergency kits that I've seen and heard of, those are some of the things you're going to want: batteries, a blanket, some kind of shelter, maybe possibly, a compass, flashlights, batteries, some food, maybe a way to cook the food, I know like Academy has those little packets you can buy that are heat sources for camping. These guys here with the Boy Scouts are aware of that. They're real small, easy to pack. They don't take up much space. They don't take up much energy. You just mix a few things together and you got a heat source to heat up your food. And then getting set. So gathering your family members and pets. So if you know that there's an event coming or you see something coming or whatever, they're wanting you to get prepared. Get your family members notified. Have your pet carriers ready to go if you're going to carry your pet in that. Things of that nature. Be ready to evacuate if you have to. They recommend to back your car in, because in that kind of situation, you're going to have everybody's going to want to be getting out. And what's the hardest thing to do in traffic is to back out. So they're saying to back in your driveway so you can pull straight out, and it's easier because you're already pointing forward. You're not having to look over your shoulder to see where you're going. So it's easier to pull out of a parking spot, and because you can see where you're going, you can start nudging your way in and make someone let you in, is why they recommend for you to back your vehicle in. Before leaving, you're shutting your windows so embers can't come through the windows. If the screen wasn't tight enough mesh or whatever on the screen, embers can come through, and it'll pull air from the outside in. Inside of your house is probably going to be colder than outside. Hot air is going to go to that area. By the way hot air flows, it's going to go to wherever it's cold. So it can start pulling a draft, and it'll pull the hot air and embers right into your house. So you close your windows down, turn off your air conditioner. The scout leader over here was talking about that. Turn off your air conditioner when you camp to the station. And I believe one of the things they're wanting you to emphasize on turning that off. One, your AC is not going to be running outside. You're not going to be pulling any kind of air from outside if your house isn't sealed up tight enough, or you're bringing in smoke and filling up the house. We look through the window, we see the house is full of smoke. We're going to think maybe the inside might be on fire, so then we're going to break in or go in the door and check for fire inside. And once again, I'm not 100% sure if that's the reason why they tell you to turn your air conditioner off, but I would assume those would be good ideas, or good reasons why. It's because they don't want the smoke inside there, and then it'll also make your house smell like smoke pretty bad, because it'll just keep filtering through and get it and permeate it into all your clothes and your couch and furniture and whatnot. Pilot lights. I don't think hardly any gas appliances nowadays that are sold have a constant pilot light anymore. I believe they're on a self-ignite, so whenever it needs the demand, it lights the pilot, lights the gas, and then heats up your water or your food or whatever. So I don't believe there's actual many appliances out there that have a constant pilot light, but that would be a good reason why to turn those off. Would be if you had a gas line break, the gas comes into your house, it hits that pilot light and then starts a fire, or if something gets knocked over, hits the stove or whatever, breaks whatever, or the water heater, pilot light is an ignition source right away. So they're wanting you to just eliminate the possibilities of a pilot light lighting any kind of fuels. I don't think anybody around here has propane tanks. Maybe Comanche Trail residents might have propane tanks, but I think most everybody in Steiner and River Place are all on a natural gas line underground. So it's not really that much you can worry about. But if you wanted to take one more safety factor, you just take a crescent wrench out to your gas meter, and you've got the valve. If it's straight up and down or in line with your pipe, it's on. If it's turned horizontal with the pipe, then it's going to be off. So you just turn it. It's a quarter turn valve. Turn it off. Gas is off. It's underground. If it was to get knocked off for any reason, then it's going to be turned off right there, and your house will be in good shape. So that's one thing for natural gas users. Propane, there's not much you can do on those, except I think newer houses are having valves put in before right their metering device to go into the house. I think there's shut-off valves there too, so you can do the same thing. At least shut off the gas to your house. If the tank gets hot enough, it's got pressure discs that are going to pop. It's going to off-gas the propane. More likely, it's going to not ignite and then burn. If there's that much heat out there, it's going it'll light it off, but it'll burn the contents off inside the tank, and it'll be okay. There won't be any threat there. This says here, leave doors locked, or leave doors unlocked. One of the things I believe they're wanting you to know about leaving your doors unlocked, there's controversy about that. Well, I don't want to leave my house unlocked. Someone's going to break in. If we're coming through and we see the need that we need to go in the house to move stuff to certain ways, get them away from windows, so pull drapes down so they don't get any radiant heat through the window and ignite the drapes that then ignite inside the house. If we see those things, we're going to go in and do that. We're going to go in and prep that house, get it ready. We're going to push fences down, take lawn furniture off the porches. We're going to cut your deck off, and we're going to do everything we can to save that house. And if one of the things we need to do is be inside, it'd be just as easy for us to open the door than having to kick it in or get our tools and spread it or cut it or whatever. I was telling the scout leader that there's not a home door out there that's going to stop us. We'll get in one way or the other if it's locked or not. But it saves us a lot of headache and trouble. If we're just our engine crew guys are out there doing the work, we can easily go in, prep the house, move on to the next one. Prep that house and then move on. It just gets us to be able to go through every house faster. Leaving interior and exterior lights on to aid in firefighters. Exterior lights, for sure, I can see why they would want us to do that. If it's nighttime, the only light we have is either on our helmet or our hand light we're carrying, and it gets dark out there, especially if power is out. Then it doesn't matter anyways. But if it's not, it would help us to see. Oh, hey, they got a fence right there. It's going up to the house. They got bushes right there. Let's take the chainsaw and cut those down. Push that fence over. It would just help aid in our ability to see things if the power is still on in the community. Sometimes it won't be. That'd probably be one of the things we would get cut out anyways if the fire hadn't already done that. Evacuate early. So if you know a situation's coming, Steiner Ranch, don't wait until the sheriff's department comes knocking on your door. You get reverse 911 and they call and say, hey, evacuate your neighborhood. If you see it, don't ask questions. You see the fire, go ahead and go shopping. Go out and do whatever and watch the news, listen to the radio, or see what's going. Move on is what they're wanting you to do. Is just get out early, so that way it's not a mass panic situation right there at the end. So when they do call and say, "Hey, you need to get out," or the sheriff's department is driving down the road with the PA saying, "Evacuate," you're already gone. You're not a problem. We can get in there and do our job. The sheriff's department can do their job without having a lot of hassle and repeating themselves throughout the whole community. And of course, don't forget your emergency kit, your loved ones, pets, invaluables that you can quickly grab and go. Humans cause 90% of wildfires. Ways to avoid those, of course, don't violate the burn ban. Most people, we don't have a problem with violating the burn ban. We have signs everywhere now. We try to put it on the news, so the news lets people know. Most fire department websites will tell you if the county's under a burn ban and what you can do, where you can burn, to get burn permits, and what can be burned and how. I know our website does. We have some business cards that we can give to everybody that y'all have our main phone number, our website you can go to get more information. I do believe we have a whole section on FireWise for our community on there, and I think we will even come and send our investigators to do a checklist or report on your area to make sure that you're within the guidelines of the FireWise, and you're doing what you can to help out. So the burn ban is listed pretty much everywhere. People say, "Well, I didn't know." That's hard to believe these days because we have so much out there, because it's such a big threat right now. Welding and cutting with torches, even the most littlest spark can cause a fire to start. Setting off fireworks, we don't really have to worry too much about that anymore. People have been really good about keeping fireworks under bay and not popping them off during the wrong times of the year. But it does happen. People will buy them when you're allowed to buy them, store them, and then they'll go out and have a party or something and pop some off thinking it's fun. But I have not heard that problem in a long time. So, but it's one of the things that we want to think about, that they do go up or they do cause sparks and fire, and it can get out of control real quick. Dumping hot ashes and coals. So like if you have your barbecue pit and you want to discard, go ahead and leave it in the pit, let them cool off, put a little water on them, make sure they're cold to the touch even. So you pour the water on it, you don't see any more smoke or steam coming off. Use the back of your hand, just reach down there and see how cold they are. If they're cold, then you can discard them into your compost pile and start turning it in, and all the nitrogen within the ashes will help out with good fertilizer. Right?
Right.
Then the cigarette butts. I already touched base on that. The cigarette butts are really a big one on roadsides. Leaving campfires unattended. We all know that. No campfires unattended, right? Parking and driving on dry grass. Catalytic converters, exhaust systems. You parking in tall grass on the side of the road if your car breaks down or have a tire problem. Watch underneath your car, because if the grass is up underneath there, that catalytic converter can be somewhere of I think 700 to 800 degrees or something like that. Real easily to start these tall grasses that are on fire. These tall grasses are all dead. It's all standing dead material in some places, and that's has a low ignition point. It's gonna catch on fire real easily, and an exhaust system can do that. Dragging chains on the road. If you're pulling a trailer, you'll see it almost all the time. Someone has their trailers too low and the chains are just bumping right along. Those sparks fly over to the median and catch the shoulder on fire, and if it's tall enough grass, wind's going just right, it can spread right across that tall grass into the tall cedars or shrubs and whatnot, and off it goes. So it doesn't take much. There was another thing I saw I wanted to... clearing, brush clearing. We do have a program through Lake Travis Fire Rescue. If you were to call our inspections department, I know a lot of communities here. Steiner Ranch has done some. A lot of communities down south off of Bee Caves and off of Hamilton Pool, they request we have a tree clearing program that we can come out with a crew, and we'll cut your greenbelt lines and make defensible spaces in those areas. You'll clear out the cedars. We'll throw them into a chipper. They chip up the material. We put it in a dump trailer. We carry it down to this recycle depot down here in Bee Caves, and they take care of it, recycle it, turn it into mulch or whatever they do with it after that. But there is lots of information on that. We have a gentleman that's solely for that program, and he's, like I said, unfortunately detained at another event today, and he would have a lot more information, but you can call him at any time, and he can get y'all set up, your community, even if it's just the small neighborhood. Like Steiner Ranch has all the separate little names of neighborhoods within Steiner Ranch. You can just have those, have your block leader say, hey, let's put together this and see if we can't get them to come out and help us clear out 5 or 6 houses worth of greenbelt area. They can schedule that and get that taken care of, and that's really a good avenue to help with that defensible space. So that's really all I have. The material is very helpful. Like I said, I kind of thumbed through it and looked at it before we came over, but if y'all have any questions, don't hesitate to call and ask, or if you have any questions now. Yes, sir.
Gutter guards, are they a good idea to prevent ashes falling down into the gutters? If you have gutters, start at the edge of the...
Definitely, gutter guards are probably a good idea if they're the right style. You can get small leaf litter that can get ground up on the roof and still get in the gutter and start to accumulate in there. And then if a spark gets in there, that little stuff is going to burn real quick and real hot, real fast. And if there's a lot of it, well, then it can sit there and burn for a while and then catch your eave on fire. And you only have about an inch and a half of flashing underneath the roof that protects you from your wood exposure for your drip line. So there's not much, and it doesn't take much for it to start the eave or the soffit on fire, and then it gets in the attic and it's all over from there. So it all depends on how they're designed. I would imagine that it's covered more in depth on the website, or there's even your contractor, if they're educated enough on Firewise and they're even considering that they'll know the information and how to get you the right ones. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had one. You're talking about burn ban. I've heard propane grilling's okay. Charcoal grilling, that's what we're doing.
As in with like water restrictions, we have different levels of burn ban. Right now, I believe we're in the first stages of burn bans. We're not in the super aggressive stage of burn banning. Right now, it's just outside brush burning, ground fires of that nature. Cooking and warming fires, which we're not going to really need warming fires much more. Recreational campfires are still approved. Cooking with charcoal and an open pit is still approved. Of course, they will advise that on the news and update everybody that those things are no longer. And I think that goes into effect in the second stage of burn bans. And then, of course, the third stage is no welding. No outdoor cooking. They put locks and chains on the grills at the parks and everything, but we're not at that point just yet. But after what I saw Thursday, I think we should be, because the fire moved pretty quick on me.
Hey, as a Steiner resident, I know we're coming up on about 3 years now. This is the fire. Thank you guys.
You bet. Thank you.
And, saved a lot of homes and very appreciative.
You bet. Well, like I said, I'm sorry I didn't have more. I know there is a PowerPoint presentation that if I could have gotten my hands on, I would have, and been able to make a little better presentation. But I hope I answered any questions and helped y'all out with a little bit of Firewise.
So I just wanted to say thank you guys for being able to come out. Also, I have pamphlets about the event that Scout made, and if you guys could pick that up. Also, if you guys could pick up multiples of those and to hand them out to your neighbors, friends, family. There's also a little link to my YouTube page that I set up for this. There will be a video put together of this event, and hopefully I'll get that out soon. And yeah. Thank you guys for coming. Hope you guys enjoyed.